This video will show you how to add interactivity to a dashboard by using form components. Consider this dashboard here. This dashboard already contains a certain amount of interactivity because it has selection components. For example, the user can select a range of dates to display in the dashboard, both in the chart and in the crosstab below, and the user can select a set of categories to view in the chart and in the crosstab. To make this dashboard more interactive, we might consider also giving the user control over which field is displayed on the x-axis of the chart and the row header of the crosstab table. We can do this by using a form component that will allow the user to choose the field to display in the chart and in the crosstab. Before we do this, though, it's important to point out that there is a built-in feature, the ad hoc chart editor and ad hoc crosstab editor, that allows the user to make these kinds of changes. For example, let's preview this dashboard the way that a user would see it. To do this, press the preview button in the toolbar. Note that both the chart and the crosstab have an edit button at the top right corner. By pressing the edit button, the user can open the chart editor or the crosstab editor. By using the ad hoc chart editor and crosstab editor, the user can easily change the fields that appear on the row header, column header, or measure of the crosstab, or that appear on the x-axis, y-axis, or visual bindings of the chart. Thus, if the user wanted to exchange the category field on the x-axis for the company field, the user could simply open the chart editor, just as we did, and drag the company field to the x-axis in place of the category field. In many cases, however, you may prefer to give the user a more simple interface without all the features that are available through the ad hoc chart editor and ad hoc crosstab editor. In such a case, you might prefer to turn off those features and just provide the user with a simpler set of controls. To turn off the ad hoc editing features, return to the design view of the dashboard, right-click on the chart or on the crosstab and select Properties. From the Advanced tab in the Properties dialog box, turn off Enable Ad Hoc Editing. Of course, you can leave the ad hoc editing enabled and still add interactivity using form components, as we will do shortly. Again, what we'd like to do here is give the user a choice of the field that appears on the x-axis of the chart and the row header of the crosstab, and we'll do this by adding a form component. In this case, we could use either a radio button or a combo box to do this kind of single selection. Let's use a combo box in this case. We drag the combo box from the component panel into an empty space on the dashboard. To provide a label for the combo box, simply enter text above it. You can do this by dragging a text component into the dashboard or just by double-clicking right above the combo box and typing the desired text. This combo box will be used to set the dimension on the chart and on the crosstab table, so we've labeled it dimension. In this case, because the options that the combo box will display are simply field names, we'll give the user a choice of either category or company. We can drag these field names directly from the dataset into the combo box to populate the combo box. Drag the category field into the combo box, and then drag the company field into the combo box to populate the combo box with these options. If you wanted to provide additional choices to the user, you could drag additional fields into the combo box, but we'll proceed with just these two choices. The next thing to do is to provide a meaningful name for this combo box. Right-click on the combo box and select Properties. In almost all cases when you're using form components, it's important to provide a meaningful name. This is because you'll have to refer to the component later on by its name. So for this combo box, we'll change the name to Dimension. If you need to make further changes to the labels that appear in the combo box, you can press the Edit button in the List Values panel and change the labels. In this case, we'll leave the labels as they are. Keep in mind, though, that the values need to remain exactly as they are, because these are the actual field names. When the user makes a submission from this combo box, the value that the user submits has to be a legitimate field name. Press OK to save any changes, and then press OK again to save the name of the combo box. The next thing that you need to do in order to make this form component active is to specify that the chart x-axis and the crosstab row header should use the value submitted by the user from the combo box to set the desired field. Let's do the chart first. Press the Edit button at the top of the chart and find the X-axis region in the data panel of the chart editor. Note that currently the category field is statically set on the X-axis. To make the X-axis field dynamic so that it can respond to user input, press the pop-up button just to the right of the category field name and select Variable. From the menu, select the dimension variable. The dimension variable corresponds to the value that the user submits from the dimension combo box. Note that the name of the variable is the same as the name that we assigned to the combo box. By doing this, we make the X-axis of the chart respond to the value submitted by the user from the combo box. If the user selects company, the X-axis of the chart displays the company field. If the user selects the category field, then the X-axis of the chart displays the category field. We can do the same thing to make the row header of the crosstab also respond to the combo box. Press the Edit button at the top right corner of the crosstab to open the crosstab editor. Again, as you can see, the category field is being used to statically set the row header for the crosstab. To make the row header dynamic so that it can respond to user input from the combo box, again press the pop-up button to the right of the field name and select Variable. Here again, from the menu, select the dimension variable, which corresponds to the dimension combo box. Press the green Apply button at the top right to make the crosstab dynamic and responsive to this combo box. Again, if you select Category in the combo box, now both the chart and the crosstab display the category dimension. If the user selects Company, both the chart and the crosstab display the company dimension. For the chart on the X-axis and for the crosstab as the row header. Next, let's provide the user with a form component that will allow them to choose whether they want to see the column total or the row total in the crosstab. Note that there is a property that allows you to specify this for the crosstab. If you open the crosstab editor and click on the Options button at the top, there is a property called row total and a property called column total that control whether these totals are displayed. By default, they are not. Note that these properties accept one of two values, either show or hide. And we can make these properties dynamic by providing a form component that will set the property. In this case, we'll use two radio button controls, one to allow the user to set whether the row total is displayed or not, and another to allow the user to specify whether the column total is displayed or not. In the component panel, find the radio button form component and drag two of these into the dashboard. Right-click on the top radio button control and select Properties. For this radio button, we'll change the name to Column Total. Then we'll set the list for the radio button to have the values either show or hide. Again, keep in mind that the label is arbitrary and you can enter whatever text you wish for the label. However, the values need to be show and hide, those strings exactly, because those are the values that are expected by the column total and the row total properties. Press OK to save the list. You can also add a more meaningful title for the radio button. The title is merely the text that appears above the radio button control. Press OK to save the properties for this radio button. Repeat the process for the second radio button. Right-click, select Properties, provide a meaningful name, enter a list that allows the user to specify show or hide, and change the title to something more descriptive. Then press OK. We can now use these form elements to dynamically set whether the row total and column total are shown or hidden. To do this, press the Edit button in the crosstab. If the Options panel is not open, press the Options button at the top again to open the Options panel below. Press the pop-up button next to the row total and select Variable. In the menu, select the row total variable, which will use the value that the user submits in the row total radio button. For the column total, press the pop-up button and also select variable. And here, select the column total variable, which will use the value that the user submits from the column total radio button. Press the green apply button to save the changes. Set both the column total radio button and the row total radio button to hide, and note that if you scroll to the end of the crosstab, either vertically or horizontally, there are no totals visible. If you switch the column total to show, and then again scroll to the end of the crosstab, you will find that there is now a column of totals summarizing the values for the different categories. If you switch the row total from hide to show, and then scroll down, you'll note that there is now a row of grand totals summarizing the different quarters. To hide the totals, again, you can switch the value of the column total or the value of the row total from show to hide. Let's look at a slightly different approach to providing the same interactivity. Instead of providing the user with two independent radio button controls, we could provide a single radio button control that allows the user to choose whether they want to see the column total, the row total, or both. This will require a slightly different approach in the crosstab editor, so let's open the crosstab editor again by pressing the edit button at the top right corner and switch the row total and column total properties back to the value setting. We can leave them both set to hide for now. Press the apply button to close the crosstab editor. Then delete the existing radio button controls. Add a new radio button control, again by dragging from the component panel, and then right-click on the radio button, select Properties, and provide a meaningful name. If desired, you can also provide a title. Then enable the Embedded option in the List Values panel and press the Edit button. Here again we can enter our list of choices. We'll provide one choice of Show Column Total. When the user makes this choice, we'll submit the value of column total. We'll provide a second choice of Show Row Total. And when the user makes this selection, we'll submit a value of row total. And we'll provide a third choice of Show Both. In this case, the value submitted will be simply both. Note that here we are not trying to match these values to the values expected by any particular property in the dialog box. That's because we're going to write a script that will determine the value that the user has selected and then set the properties appropriately to either show or hide. At this point, we simply need to remember the values that we've set: column total, row total, and both. Press OK to save the embedded list, and press OK again to save the radio button properties. Resize the radio button as desired to show all three choices. We can now use this single radio button control to set the row total and column total properties in the crosstab editor. Press the Edit button at the top right of the crosstab, and again, if the Options panel at the bottom is not visible, press the Options button at the top right. Press the pop-up button next to the row total field, and this time select Expression. The reason that we cannot select variable in this case is because there is no form component in the dashboard that will directly return a value of show or hide. Instead, we have a radio button control that returns either row total, column total, or both. Therefore, we will need to set the row total property by using an expression that can check the value that the user submits from the radio button and then set the property appropriately. So again, select the expression option, and then press the Edit button next to the row total property. You can delete the equal sign that appears by default, and then write the following expression. We will use a JavaScript if operator, which is a conditional operator, to check the value that the user has submitted from the radio button. That value can be obtained in the parameter folder by looking for the name of the component, in this case, select total. Recall that select total is the name that we gave to the radio button. Click on the select total parameter to add the parameter into the expression. The syntax parameter.selectTotal contains the value that the user submits from the radio button. In our conditional statement, then, we can test whether that value is one of the three options that the user can have submitted. So if parameter.selectTotal is equal to row total, then the value that we want to return to set the row total property here is show. Otherwise, we want to return the value hide. Again, this script tests the value that the user submits from the radio button. If that value is row total, then the script returns a value of show to be used for the row total property. Otherwise, the script returns a value of hide to be used for the row total property. There is one further thing that we need to add to this script, however, because when the user selects show both from the radio button, here also we would like to display the row total. Therefore, we can expand the condition test here to include the both option. If parameter.selectTotal is equal to row total, or parameter.selectTotal is equal to both, then we return a value of show for the row total property. This script now ensures that whether the user selects show row total or show both, the value of the row total property will be set to show. Otherwise, it will be set to hide. Note that here we've used the JavaScript OR operator, which you can find in the logical folder of the operators list, to logically combine these two conditions. Before we save this script, let's copy it to the clipboard because the script for the column total will be almost identical. Once you've copied the script, press OK to save the script for the row total property. Then repeat the process for the column total property. Again, press the button to the right of the column total property and select expression. Press the edit button and remove the equal sign that appears by default, and then paste the script that we previously wrote for the row total property into the formula editor. In this script, we need to change only one thing, and that is to change the test for row total to a test for column total. This script now checks whether the user has submitted a value of column total from the radio button or a value of both. In either of those cases, the value of the column total property will be set to show. Otherwise, the value of the column total property will be set to hide. Press OK to save the script on the column total property. Then press the green Apply button to save the changes to the crosstab editor. Verify that when show column total is selected, a total column appears at the end of the crosstab table. When show row total is selected, there is no total column at the end of the crosstab table, but a total appears at the bottom of the crosstab table. And when the show both option is selected, the crosstab table displays both the row total at the bottom and the column total at the end. The examples in this video have illustrated how you can use form components together with either the variable or expression setting for a property to make those properties dynamic and interactive. Note that there are many properties of components that you will find throughout a dashboard that can be made interactive in this way. In fact, anywhere you see the pop-up menu that has the value, variable, expression option, you can make that property dynamic in the same way that we've done here. Many properties offer that feature. For example, right-click on the chart and select Properties. Note that the visible property and the enabled property, which are common not only to charts but also to all other components, offer the pop-up menu that allows you to choose a variable or expression to make that property dynamic. Under the Advanced tab, if you were to add a target line to the chart, you would notice that the value property and the label property of the target line can also be set using a variable or expression and hence can also be made interactive and dynamic in the same way. Similarly, if you open the crosstab editor again and click, for example, on the column header, you'll note that the ranking property also offers this choice, as well as the level property for date grouping. The rule that applies in all of these cases where you select a variable option or expression option for a property is that the value of the variable or the value returned by the expression must be a legitimate value for the particular property. For example, if you're using a form component to set the level property as a variable, the form component must submit a value that matches one of the legitimate values for that property. The legitimate values are those values that you see here in the default list. Likewise, if you use a form element to set the value of the property using an expression, the expression must return a string that matches one of the legitimate values for that particular property. Note that some properties do not have a fixed list of legitimate values. For example, if you were to set ranking for a dimension in the crosstab, the property that specifies the number of top groups to rank does not have a fixed list to choose from. In this case, if you choose to set this property using a variable or expression, the variable or expression must return an integer value because an integer is the appropriate data type for this particular property. Let's go ahead and add a form element that will allow the user to select the number of top groups to display in the crosstab. Close the crosstab editor, and then add an appropriate form element. In this case, we'll use a spinner. Drag the spinner control into the dashboard and select Properties. Provide a meaningful name such as top n quarters and enter the desired minimum and maximum values. In this case, we'll allow the user to select the top 1 to the top 6 quarters. Press OK to save the changes to the spinner control. Open the crosstab editor again, and again click on the date field and select a ranking option of top. Instead of using a fixed value of 3 to select the top 3 quarters according to the sum total, press the pop-up button next to the text field and select the variable option. From the menu, choose the top n quarters variable, which corresponds to the value submitted from the spinner. Because the spinner control that we created is only capable of submitting integer values, we can be confident that the ranking property will only be getting the integer values that it expects. Press the green Apply button to save the changes in the crosstab editor. Use the arrows on the spinner to select the desired number of top quarters in the crosstab. For example, here we've selected the top 4 quarters according to summed total. If desired, position the spinner control and provide a label as desired.